Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum first year students. I am Dr. Asma Sadiq from Anatomy department, and as you know we have discussed about the general aspects of the bone in general anatomy lectures. Today I am going to discuss with you some clinical correlates associated with the bones. So before moving to the clinical aspects of the bone, first of all, I would like to discuss very important point and topic associated with the bones as the law of ossification. This law of ossification of the bone is also known as growing end hypothesis. So as you know so far that a long bone is going to have that shaft which is known as diaphysis, and it is going to have the two ends which are known as epiphysis. The diaphysis is going to be developed by the primary center of ossification in intrauterine life, and their ends which are epiphyses, these are proximal and distal epiphyses of the long bone, they are going to be developed by the secondary center of ossification. So the secondary center of ossification appears for the epiphyses of the long bones after birth most of the time. And here this is the epiphyseal cartilage, which is a growth plate. This is epiphyseal plate separating the epiphyses with the diaphysis. This is present on both ends, and this epiphysis and diaphysis, which is separated by this growth plate or epiphyseal cartilage, that is very important for the bone growth. Its non-fusion and non-union is responsible for the growth of the long bone in longitudinal direction. So whenever this epiphysis become ossified with the diaphysis, that means the epiphyseal cartilage disappeared, it also going to become ossified and also become the bone. So at that time the further growth of the bone is not going to proceed. So we need that epiphyseal cartilage separating the epiphysis and diaphysis for the purpose of the growth to continue in the immature bone in the children, and after puberty most of the epiphyses, they are going to become ossified. So to understand that which end of the long bone is the growing end, only one end of the bone shows prominent and faster growth rate as compared to the other one. So only that end which is showing prominent growth, that is known as the growing end of the bone. For that purpose, the law of ossification or this growing end hypothesis that was designed, and according to this, the epiphysis which you have seen, that is the one which appears by secondary center of ossification, that epiphysis which appears first, which is going to start ossifying first, it is going to fuse with the diaphysis late. So the epiphysis which appears first, it fuses with the diaphysis in the last and late as compared to the other end of the bone where the epiphysis is going to become ossify late, it fuses first. So for example, as you have seen that the epiphysis of that proximal end of the bone appears at the first year of the age. So this is appearing at first year of the age of a child, and the epiphysis for the distal end of the long bone appears at the third year of the child. So among them, the proximal epiphysis which appears at 1 year of age, that appears first as compared to the distal epiphysis which is going to appear late at the 3 years of age. So according to law of ossification and growing end of hypothesis, what will be your answer? Which end is the growing end? Yes, this is the proximal end of the bone which is appearing first at the 1 year of age. It fuses with the diaphysis late. So this is representing the growing end of the long bone. And the one, this distal epiphysis, which I'm saying, for example, it appearing at 3 years of age, it is going to fuse with the diaphysis earlier as compared to the proximal epiphysis. So here the growth is going to be diminished as compared to the one towards the proximal side. It is the growing end of the long bone. So the first point for the law of ossification is that the epiphysis of the long bone which appears first is going to fuse with the diaphysis late, and that end of the long bone is growing end of that bone. The second point, which is representing the law of ossification, is the direction of the nutrient foramen. And through that nutrient foramen, the nutrient artery that is passing into the bone. So the direction of the nutrient foramen is always away or opposite to the growing end. As here in this bone you have seen that according to the appearance of epiphysis, we have seen that this proximal end is the growing end. So in this case, the direction of the nutrient foramen have to be towards the distal end or towards the lower end of the long bone. So the nutrient foramen and nutrient artery that is directing towards the lower end. So the growing end of that bone must be the proximal upper end of the bone, as you have seen that the nutrient artery or nutrient foramen, the direction of them is always away or opposite to the growing end of the bone. So these are very important points you must have to be considered for the law of ossification or growing end hypothesis. Number one, the epiphysis which appears first is going to fuse with the diaphysis late, and the direction of the nutrient foramen is always away or opposite from the growing end. All of these law of ossification and its points are going to be considered and seen in the most of the long bone except for the fibula. Except for the fibula, fibula is the bone which is violating. So here we will follow the first point of the law of ossification, according to which you have seen that the epiphysis which appears first is going to fuse with the diaphysis late. So that means this is the growing end, and that is growing because here the epiphysis and diaphysis, they remain separated for a longer period of time. So the epiphysis separated by diaphysis through this epiphyseal plate, and here the area of diaphysis which is very adjacent to epiphyseal plate, that has a higher growth rate, and here the growth of the bone is very prominent, that is the metaphysis. So same towards the distal end you have seen. Now for the diaphysis, you have the primary center of ossification, which is making the shaft of the long bone to become ossified, and the epiphysis of the bones are going to be appeared by secondary ossification center. So here in this case, if you see at this bone, this is the secondary ossification center which appears first at the upper proximal part of the bone, but still this lower distal end has not shown you any secondary center of ossification. So that means here the secondary center appears first. So this epiphysis started ossifying first as compared to the other end. So here you have seen that this end and this epiphysis which appears first, that is still separated from the epiphysis through this epiphyseal plate. So this epiphysis which appears first is going to fuse with the diaphysis late as compared to the other end, where the secondary center of ossification and epiphysis appears late, that has already been fused with the diaphysis, mean it has become ossified earlier. So the epiphysis which appears late is going to fuse with diaphysis earlier. So that's how this proximal end of the bone is known as the growing. Now here again you have seen that it is showing you different ages for the development of the secondary ossification centers and epiphyses of the femur. So that is a very interesting example in which you have seen that the epiphysis of the lower distal end of the femur, it appears in the 9th month of intrauterine life. So I have told you that most of the epiphyses which are appeared and developed by secondary center of ossification, they started appearing after birth. Exception is for the distal end of the femur, which appears in the intrauterine life at the 9th month of the fetal life. And here the epiphysis for the greater trochanter, that appears in 4th year. The lesser trochanter appears in the 13th and 14th years of life, and for the head of the femur in the 1st year of the life. And this is showing you the ages of the fusion, which is actually at the 18th year. But this epiphysis, which appears earlier, which appears first at 9 months of intrauterine life, it fuses late with the diaphysis at the age of 20th year. And all for the proximal end, these epiphyses are going to be fused with the diaphysis at 18th year. So here you can you can appreciate that point, that the epiphysis which appears first is going to fuse late with the diaphysis. And here in this case, that is in the new bone, you have not seen the epiphysis for the proximal end, but the epiphysis for the distal end you can see very easily. Here this dot like this one, that is showing you the area of epiphysis. So this is the epiphysis for the distal end of the long bone, which is going to appear earlier in the 9th month of intrauterine life. And as you have seen in the proximal end, you have not appreciating any epiphysis at this age. So this epiphysis appears in the 9th month of intrauterine life, and it is going to fuse late with the rest of the. Now the other point was the direction of the nutrient foramen. Here you can see this is the tibia, and through this range you can appreciate that the direction of nutrient foramen is towards the lower or distal end. So this is the proximal end, but the direction of nutrient foramen is towards the distal end. So according to the law of ossification, which end will be the growing end now? The end which is opposite to the direction of the nutrient foramen. So that means in tibia, its proximal upper end is the growing end. So you can also see now the direction of these arteries which is entering into the nutrient foramen, that is towards the lower side, towards the distal side. So its upper end, its proximal end is the growing end. So how you will understand which end of the long bone is the growing end? For that purpose, you are going to have this mnemonic which is telling you, to the elbow I go and from the knee I flee. That indicates towards the elbow I go and towards the knee I flee. This is the direction of nutrient foramen. So here this is the upper limb. What it said, towards the elbow I go. That means the direction of nutrient foramen is towards the elbow. So for the humerus, it is towards the distal end. So what will be its growing end? That proximal end. And here for the forearm bones, radius and ulna, the direction of nutrient foramen is towards the elbow, and this direction of nutrient foramen indicates that the ends which are opposite to that direction will be the growing end. So these are these distal ends. So in the upper limb bones, for the humerus, the proximal end And for radius and ulna, its distal ends are the growing end of that bones. And you have seen that towards the knee, I flee, that is the direction of nutrient foramen. For the femur, direction of nutrient foramen is away or opposite to the knee joint. That means from the knee I flee, I go away. So direction is towards the upward direction, that is the direction of nutrient foramen. So what will be the growing end? That is its distal end. And we have also confirmed it that the epiphysis of distal end of the femur appears at 9 months of intrauterine life, very earlier as compared to epiphysis of proximal ends. So this distal end is the growing end. It is following both of the points, that direction of nutrient foramen is away from the growing end, and the epiphysis which appears first is going to fuse late, indicating this is the growing end. And for the tibia, again, I have told you that the direction of nutrient foramen is away from the knee joint. It is towards the distal lower end of the tibia. So its proximal upper end, that is the growing end. But the fibula, that is exception. It is not following the both of the rules of the law of ossification. That is very important to note here, that this fibula is violating the rule of ossification. In this bone, the secondary center of ossification appears in the distal lower end in the first year of the life, and for its proximal end it appears in the third year of the life. So its distal end epiphysis appears first in the first year of life, but it is also going to fuse earlier at the 17 years of age as compared to the proximal epiphysis, which is appearing late in the 3 years of life, but it is going to fuse late at almost 19th to 20th years of age. So this is the fibula only, which is not accepting the law of ossification. So that is violating the rule of ossification and growing end hypothesis. So I hope you understand now the points of law of ossification. Number one, the epiphysis which appears first is going to fuse late. So that is the growing end. And the direction of nutrient foramen is away from the growing end of the long bone. So the next very important point, that is the determination of bone age. And by this epiphysis and diaphysis on the X-ray, we can very easily determine the age of a bone. So the epiphysis, as you have seen, it has a different time of appearance after birth. So by looking into the epiphysis, its appearance, also the disappearance of epiphyseal plate as it is going to become fused at puberty. So this is very important. You can estimate actually the different times for the each bone. So you can be able to determine the age by looking into the X-ray and by keeping in mind the appearance of epiphysis at different time periods as well as the fusion of the long bones. So here you can see this is the area here which you still have seen this separation, and again here. So this separation is because of the presence of the epiphyseal cartilage. So this is the epiphyseal cartilage which is present for the femur at its distal end and for the tibia at its proximal end. And here you have seen at puberty at different age which are different for the girls and boys. So at that age of the puberty, these epiphyseal plates, they disappeared, they become ossified, and here it is just representing the epiphyseal line. So by looking into that disappearance of epiphyseal line, definitely now you can appreciate that this is the age of the X-ray of any boy which is before puberty, and this is the X-ray after puberty. So this is showing you the different times for the appearance of the secondary ossification centers, and I hope in dissection classes, as you have studied the ossification centers for scapula, same for each bone, you will study the appearance of ossification center at different time periods. And these different, if you have this estimation chart of the secondary ossification center in your mind, then you can easily determine the age of the bone. So by looking into the appearance of secondary ossification centers, which appears at different age, then you can easily estimate the age of the bone. Again here, what is the difference you can see? In the lower end, distal end of the tibia and fibula, these are the epiphyses, which are separated by the diaphysis through this epiphyseal cartilage. So epiphyseal cartilage, this is non-calcified structure. So this is not appeared at this as radio opaque as the rest of the bone, that this is a dense structure. So here you can see this space that is indicating the presence of epiphyseal cartilage. But here you can see that this epiphysis, which you can see separated here in this X-ray, they have become fused with the rest of the diaphysis of tibia and fibula. So approximately this is now definitely the X-ray after puberty for the adult long bone, when the epiphyseal lines have disappeared and they have become fused with the rest of the body. So now the fractures. What are the fractures? Every one of you have the knowledge about it. So by definition, the fracture of the bone is the break in continuity of the bone. Whenever there is a break, whenever there is a discontinuity, then we label that the bone has broken, and these are called clinically the fractures of the bone. So the fractures are of many types. There are the comminuted fracture, in which the bone is going to break into 3 or more than 3 pieces. Actually, whenever there is a break in the bone, then it is going to break into 2 pieces. But if it is breaking into 3 or more pieces, we label it as comminuted fracture. Compression fracture is because of the compression forces in which the bone is crushed and it is moved inward, and this inward movement that is leading into the shortening in the bone. Then is the spiral fracture, that is the fracture because of a twist in the bone. Whenever there is a twist in the bone, this is going to breaking the bone into the 2 parts. If the epiphyses of the bone, they are going to separate it from the diaphysis, these are the epiphyseal fracture. The depressed fracture, which are mostly seen in the skull, in this case, the broken piece of the bone is going to be pressed inward. It is moving inward and it is dangerous because it can damage to the brain tissue. Green stick fracture, and I hope now you are very familiar with the green stick fracture, which is very common in the clavicle mostly, and it is seen in the more flexible bone of the children, in which only at one end of the bone is going to be, it is showing you that break, but the other end of the bone remains intact. So this is just like that green stick of a tree, which are green. When you are going to twist it, then it is just showing a break at its one side and other side remain intact. It is normal. Then that is because of the flexibility of that green stick of the tree. But if the brown hard stick you take and you are going to twist it, then it is going to break at once. So that is going to break into 2 pieces. So only when one side is showing you that fracture or break, but the other surface inside remains normal and intact, this is called green stick fracture. mostly seen in the flexible. Now, one by one, I'm going to show you all these types of the fracture, as this is a fracture showing you a straight linear fracture, straight one which is parallel to the horizontal. This is transverse fracture. A longitudinal break in the bone, that is a linear fracture, or we say that the bone is fissured. This is a fissure fracture as well. So the bone is fissured by this linear break in the bone. If there is the obliqueness of the fracture line, then this is oblique fracture, but as you have seen, it is not displaced. But if the two ends of the bones, they are displaced from each other, then this is displaced oblique fracture. And the spiral fractures are the one which are oblique mostly, and these are because of the twist of the bone. All the twisting forces in the bone, they are going to break the bone into spiral fracture. For example, if your foot stuck into the narrow main hole, and then you are trying to release it from that main hole, then you are going to twist the bone, and at that time you can experience the spiral fracture. Now only the one side is having this fracture, but the other side of the bone is intact. So this is the green stick fracture. And when the bone is broken into multiple pieces, 3 or more than 3 pieces, then this is the comminuted fracture. And the one which is going to fracture the epiphysis of the bone, as you have seen, this head of the femur, which is the epiphysis, that is separated from the rest of the bone, then this is the epiphyseal fracture. Now this is the compression fracture, when the forces are from above and down from the both sides. When there are the forces, mostly it is seen in the vertebral column, damaging the vertebra. Here you can see that this vertebra is showing this compression fracture, and here this is also leading into the shortening of the bone. So when the pressure is from both ends, so there is a fall from the height, then this is going to end up into the compression fracture of the vertebra. Now here you can see this depressed fracture, the fracture, and this piece of the bone that is going to move inward. So this is a depressed fracture, and that is dangerous as it can damage the brain tissue inside as well. Now how the fractures which you have seen, how they are going to repair. There are 4 steps for the repair of the fracture. All of these steps you will study in detail in physiology, but here I would like to mention very important points about the repair of the fracture. First of all, whenever there is the fracture, then there is definitely the damage to the adjacent capillaries and the blood vessel, which is leading into the accumulation of the blood at that fracture site. So this blood and blood clot, here there is the most of the osteoprogenitor cells, the blood cells, as well as now the fibroblast cells. These are going to invade that blood clot through the blood vessels. Then these blood clot, and here this is known as the hematoma, that is converting into a loose connective tissue sort of component, which is now the hematoma formation. So during the hematoma formation, there is accumulation of a blood clot in which there is the osteoprogenitor cells for the bone repair, the fibroblast cells, and the blood inflammatory cells. They're also going to accumulate in that area. Then this blood clot, which is just a loose connective tissue and very soft one, it is going to become cartilaginous as the blast cells here, they are transformed into the chondroblast, and they are going to form that cartilaginous structure here in that fracture site, which is now the soft callus formation. Then this cartilaginous structure that is going to become now the bony component. It is converted into the bony tissue because these chondroblast cells are now going to transform and differentiate into the osteoblast cells. And here now the very sort of spongy bone that is laid by that osteoblast cells, which I have told you is the non-lamellar woven bone, which appears initially at the fracture site. So during that repair, this cartilaginous soft callus is going to transform into a hard bony callus by the formation of that spongy bone here. Then this spongy bone is gradually replaced into a bony callus, and it becomes mature and calcified, and it is becoming now very hard, and it is replaced by the compact bone. So the spongy bone is replaced by compact bone, and the other extra bony tissue at the sides, that is going to be removed by the osteoclast cells here now, and which is known as bone remodeling. So there are 4 steps. Number 1, hematoma formation, where is the mass of a clotted blood. Then is the soft callus formation, in which the osteoprogenitor cells transformed into chondroblast, forming the fibrocartilaginous tissue at the fracture site, that is hyaline cartilage. Then is the bony callus formation, which is initially the non-calcified and non-lamellar bony woven bone, which then replaced by spongy bone. And later in the step 4, the spongy bone is again going to develop into compact bone, and the extra bone is removed by the osteoclast cells. So how these are the stages for the repair of the fracture. Now the other conditions which are associated with the imbalance of the calcium or vitamin D in the blood. So these imbalances also affect the bone. So if there is inadequate bone mineralization, that is the decreased calcium level present in the bone in the adults, this is known as osteomalacia. And the rickets is the condition which is seen in the children because of the vitamin D deficiency. And whenever there is vitamin D deficiency, definitely this is leading to the inadequate and insufficient calcium absorption and inadequate mineralization of the bone. So this is condition which is rickets. In adults, decreased calcium level and inadequate bone mineralization is osteomalacia, and in children, due to the vitamin D deficiency, then there is a decreased calcium mineralization to the bone. This condition is called rickets. And then the bones which are growing, they are showing you the bend in them. So these are called bowed bones. So the bones become bowed because of inadequate mineralization of the bones in children by calcium. Then there is the osteoporosis, which is actually a condition in the old age and in the women mostly after menopause. In post-menopausal condition, when there is the absent menstrual cycle after the age of 50 or 55, after that age, which is the age of menopause, in the females, the osteoporosis can be seen. This is because of the overactivity of osteoclast cells. When these osteoclasts become hyperactive, so definitely they are going to start the bone eating and making them weak. So these bones, they are brittle and they are going to be fractured very easily. So the bones when become osteoporotic in old age because of the hyperactivity of osteoclast cells, which are making the bone weaker by eating up them, as you have seen the bone. And now these are multiple damaging areas you can see because of the osteoclastic activity, and that condition is called osteoporosis. So here I end up with the whole of the chapter of the bones, all the general aspects, the classifications with all types of the bones, the blood supply of the bone, now the law of ossification and some of its clinical correlates. I have discussed with you. If there is any question, please you feel free to contact me and ask me question anytime. Thank you very much for your patience. I hope you understand all the concepts regarding the general aspects of the bone till now. Thank you once again.